Hello and welcome back to our channel. Hope you all are doing well. Let us continue with Accounting Standard 10, and that is Property, Plant and Equipment. In this video, we will be learning about revaluation of PPE. So without wasting further time, let's begin. Revaluation of PPE can be done by the following two models. One is the cost model and the other is the revaluation model. So let us have an overview of both these models. Now under the cost model, the fixed asset is recorded in the balance sheet at historical cost or cost of acquisition, from which accumulated depreciation and accumulated impairment loss will have to be deducted. What is impairment loss? We are going to understand shortly in this video. But first, let us just have a brief overview. Then under the revaluation model, instead of historical cost, the fixed asset is recorded at the fair value from which subsequent depreciation and subsequent impairment loss will have to be deducted. Now to understand what is impairment, you need to understand the meaning of two terms, and that is carrying amount and recoverable amount. Carrying amount is nothing but the value that is entered in the balance sheet, whereas recoverable amount is that amount what you will get by selling the asset in the market. Now when you compare both of these and you see that carrying amount is greater than recoverable amount, then there is said to be a case of impairment. Let us take an example. Let's say carrying amount of the fixed asset. Presently, carrying amount of the fixed asset is 7 lakh rupees, whereas its recoverable amount is 6,50,000 rupees. In this case, carrying amount is greater than recoverable amount. Therefore, the asset is said to be impaired and the impairment loss is 50,000 rupees. There is a separate accounting standard AS 28 impairment of assets which covers all details on impairment. However, AS 10 also has some part that covers impairment of fixed assets. Now, looking at our example, we can derive a formula for impairment loss, and it is nothing but carrying amount minus recoverable amount will give us impairment loss. Moving further, talking about the cost model, wherein we have to adjust cost for accumulated depreciation and accumulated impairment loss. To understand how the cost model works, let us take a simple example. Let's say a balance sheet is prepared for the year 2020, wherein machinery is recorded at cost and presently it is 10,000 rupees, whereas accumulated depreciation is 2,000 rupees. Let us say this machinery was purchased in the year 2015. Therefore, accumulated depreciation is nothing but depreciation provided from the year of acquisition till the current year, and that is from the year 2015 up to 2020. The total depreciation charged on that asset is 2,000 rupees. There are multiple ways of writing depreciation. One is you can directly adjust it from the cost on the asset side itself, or instead of deducting it from cost, you can bring it on the other side, that is the liability side, and write it under the head accumulated depreciation. As of 2020, what is the net book value of this asset? The book value of this asset is nothing but cost minus accumulated depreciation, and that is 10,000 minus 2,000, and the book value in 2020 is 8,000 rupees. This is how the cost model works. It can be adjusted for depreciation and it can be adjusted for impairment loss also. In the revaluation model, however, instead of writing cost, asset is recorded at fair value. So again, let us understand through an example. Balance sheet is prepared for the year 2020. Machinery in the books right now is 12,000 with accumulated depreciation of 2,000 rupees. So actually the net book value of the asset, book value as in 2020, is 12,000 minus 2,000, and that is 10,000 rupees. This is the present book value. Now this asset has to be revalued, and let's say the revalued amount is 15,000 rupees. The fair value of this machinery in 2020 is 15,000 rupees. So if you see, you have to record the new value. So a new balance sheet will be prepared wherein machinery will now be recorded at 15,000 rupees. So therefore we have recorded again the asset at the present fair value, that is the fair value on the date of revaluation. Now subsequently in the next year, that is from 2021 onwards, subsequent depreciation will have to be provided on this new value of 15,000 rupees, which is why the word used is subsequent depreciation. And also if there is any subsequent impairment loss, that will have to be adjusted from the new fair value of 15,000 rupees. One important point to note is that depreciation is always charged prospectively and not retrospectively. The meaning of that is previous year's depreciation should not be adjusted whenever there is a change in the value of asset. Depreciation can only be changed prospectively, that is in the future years over the life of the asset. Now moving forward, when we talk about revaluation model, we need to know what is the fair value of the asset. So how do we determine fair value? In general cases, fair value is determined from market-based evidence, which is also undertaken by professionally qualified valuers. So the best evidence for fair value is nothing but the market value of that asset on the date of revaluation. However, what if there is no active market for that asset? Where there is no market-based evidence, then the fair value is estimated using an income approach, which is nothing but using the method of discounting future cash flows. So what will be done is the life of the asset is estimated. Let's say the life of the asset is 5 years. Then whatever income is derived for the next 5 years is discounted to today's present value, and that present value will be the fair value of the asset. Now, frequency of revaluation is the next part, wherein how often should an asset be revalued? So let us have a look. If changes in fair value of an item of PPE is significant and volatile, then annual revaluation needs to be done. However, if there is only insignificant change, then revaluation may be done once every 3 to 5 years. So one important point to note is that if your fixed asset is changing rapidly from year to year, and the change also is huge compared to the previous years, then annual revaluation is a must. However, if there is only an insignificant value of change, asset does not change very rapidly, changes only once in a while, and the change is also very little, then revaluation may be done only once every 3 to 5 years. Moving forward, revaluation of entire class. Let us understand what is this concept. If an item of PPE is revalued, then the entire class of PPE to which that asset belongs should be revalued. So there are multiple classes of assets. For example, here 9 classes of assets are stated, and let us say we want to revalue only one of the category, and that is land. Now, if an organization has multiple holdings in land, it should not revalue only one piece of land. Whatever is the total holding of land, all those lands put together will have to be revalued altogether. So if an organization has 10 different lands in 10 different areas, and if it wants to only revalue one land, it cannot do so. It should revalue all of the lands that are available in that particular period. That is the meaning of revaluation of entire class of assets, and that works for all the classification that that organization has done for separate classes of assets. So whenever one particular asset is picked up, then all assets in that class should be revalued together. Then the next part is the most important part, and that is accounting treatment for revaluation of PPE. What accounting treatment should be done when there is change in the value of assets? So let us take, there are multiple cases here. We'll take each case one by one and understand with the help of examples. The first is upward revaluation for the first time. What should be done if an asset is revalued upwards for the first time? Whatever is the excess that has to be recorded, that should be directly credited to a new head, that is revaluation surplus, or another name is revaluation reserve. So let us take an example. The case is upward revaluation for the first time. You have been given a balance sheet wherein machinery currently is stated at 10,000 rupees. Now what has to be done is the machinery has to be revalued upwards, and let us say the new value of machinery to be stated is 15,000 rupees. So if you see, the asset is increased by 5,000 rupees and the total value is now 15,000 rupees. But this is only one effect. A corresponding effect has to be given, and that effect will be given by increasing reserves and surplus. A new head will be created, that is revaluation reserve. So under the equity and liabilities, under shareholders funds, reserves and surplus will be increased by creating a new head, that is revaluation reserve. And the revaluation gain in this case of rupees 5,000 will be written under that head of revaluation reserve. This is the treatment to be done for upward revaluation for the first time. Then you have downward revaluation for the first time. What if an asset is downward revalued for the first time? Then whatever is the loss on revaluation, that is the downward revaluation part, that should be debited to profit and loss account. Let us understand. Downward revaluation for the first time. Balance sheet has the same value, same asset, that is the machinery, standing at 10,000 rupees presently. Now what is to be done is the asset is to be revalued downwards, and let's say the new value is 8,000 rupees. So if you see, the asset is revalued downwards by 2,000 rupees. Where should this 2,000 be accounted for? It should be debited to profit and loss account as loss on revaluation. Loss on revaluation will be recorded in P&L debit side as 2,000 rupees. So there you have it. The asset is reduced by 2,000 and corresponding debit effect is given in profit and loss account. These are the accounting treatments for upward or downward revaluation for the first time. But however, what if your asset is already previously revalued and now it is time to revalue it again? Then what should be done for such subsequent revaluations? The treatment differs a little. Let us again take each case one by one. The first case in subsequent revaluation can be upward revaluation of an item which was revalued downwards previously. What should be done? Let us understand through an example. Machinery is currently standing at 10,000, and since it was previously revalued downwards, if you see the profit and loss account, loss on revaluation is 2,000 rupees. Now this machinery which is at 10,000 rupees is to be revalued upwards. This is the subsequent revaluation, and let's say the new value is 15,000 rupees. So if you see, machinery has been revalued upwards by 5,000 rupees. The new value of machinery is written as 15,000 rupees. This increase in 5,000, how should it be treated in the books of accounts? Firstly, whatever was the previous downward revaluation should be cancelled, which means P&L account was debited earlier by loss. It will be written off by giving a corresponding gain, which means on the credit side of P&L, we will have gain on revaluation. And that gain, firstly, will be only written off to the extent of what was debited earlier, which means only 2,000 should be credited. And if you see, P&L account has now been nullified. But we have not accounted entirely for the increase of 5,000 rupees, that was the total gain. We have only accounted for 2,000 rupees. The remaining 3,000 rupees will have to be credited to revaluation reserve. So again, under reserves and surplus, under the equity and liability side, you will have revaluation reserve. And that amount will be 3,000 rupees. So out of the total gain of 5,000, 2,000 is credited to P&L account and 3,000 is credited to revaluation reserve. So the P&L account is completely written off. There is no effect right now. The net effect is nil in P&L, and an increase of 3,000 is there in revaluation reserve. This is the treatment for upward revaluation of an item which was previously revalued downwards. But there can be another case wherein there is downward revaluation of an item which was previously revalued upwards. Then what should be done? Again, let's take an example. Downward revaluation of an item which was previously revalued upwards. So if you see, machinery is 10,000, and since it was already revalued upwards, there is some balance in revaluation reserve, and that is 1000 rupees. Now let's say this machinery is being revalued downwards and the new value is 7000 rupees. So machinery will be reduced and the value in the balance sheet will be written as 7000 rupees. So this loss on revaluation of 3000, how should it be accounted for? Firstly, whatever is the credit balance in revaluation reserve should be cancelled, which means a debit effect will be given to revaluation reserve. Giving debit effect will erase whatever balance was there in revaluation reserve. That is one effect. But out of the 3000 that was the revaluation loss, we have only accounted for 1000. What about the remaining 2000 rupees? That will be debited to P&L account as loss on revaluation, 2000 rupees. So totally the loss on revaluation of 3000 has been accounted now for in the books of accounts. So if you see 3000, there is a reduction in the asset. That corresponding effect 3000 is given as 1000 writing of revaluation reserve. That was the previous balance of upward revaluation. First write that off and then some more debit effect has to be given. That will be given in profit and loss account as loss on revaluation 2000 rupees. This was the accounting treatment to be done in the reserves or in the profit and loss account. However, when the value of asset is changing, then some change happens in the cost as well as depreciation of that asset. And how do you treat change in cost and depreciation under revaluation? Let us have a look. There are two methods. The first method says adjustment of gross carrying amount. Let us understand this concept through an example. Let's say existing details in the balance sheet are as follows, wherein cost of the asset is 1000 rupees, depreciation already charged is 400 rupees, therefore the net book value currently is 600 rupees. Now what is to be done is property, plant and equipment is revalued upwards to rupees 1500. So the new value that should be entered in the balance sheet is 1500. Net book value after revaluation, if you look in the after revaluation column, it should be 1500 rupees. So comparing the two figures, if you see, there is a gain on revaluation of 900 rupees. Gain on revaluation is 900 rupees. What adjustment should be done for cost and depreciation? Now we have got net book value of 1500 rupees after revaluation. So therefore, to get the cost and depreciation, what needs to be done is they have to be changed proportionately. That is the meaning of adjustment of gross carrying amount. So if you see, when net book value is 600 rupees, then cost of the asset is 1000 rupees. So if net book value is 1500 rupees, what should be the cost of the asset? Just plain cross multiplying will give you cost of the asset when net book value is 1500 rupees. So cross multiplying you get cost as 2500 after revaluation. Similarly, depreciation also should be got in the same way. When net book value is 600, depreciation is 400 rupees. So when net book value is 1500, how much depreciation should have been charged? If you cross multiply, the amount comes to 1000 rupees. So if you see, proportionate increase has been done in cost as well as depreciation to get the values after revaluation. And if you see in the after revaluation column, these figures match. 2500 minus 1000 depreciation is net book value 1500 rupees, which is the value that was required. Now how much is the revaluation gain? We had already got the answer as 900 rupees. That can also be got through the revaluation gain column, wherein cost has increased from 1000 to 2500. So there is an increase of 1500 rupees. And depreciation also has increased. From 400 it has become 1000. So depreciation had increased by 600. So actually the net gain on revaluation is 1500 minus 600, and that is 900 rupees. So there our answer matches both through the revaluation gain column and directly comparing the two net book values. This is one way of adjusting cost and depreciation. However, there is another method to adjust cost and depreciation, and that is elimination of depreciation. Same example, existing values are cost is 1000, depreciation is 400 and net book value is 600 rupees. Now to eliminate depreciation means reversing the effect of depreciation. Net book value after revaluation should become 1500. So if you see here also the gain is 900 rupees. Now to eliminate depreciation, you will have to give an opposite effect. Depreciation was deducted earlier to the extent of 400. Now we will have to add back the depreciation. So what will be done is add back depreciation of 400. Therefore, after revaluation, there will be no depreciation left. Depreciation will be nil. If you look and compare the revaluation gain column and after revaluation column, minus 400 plus 400, the net effect has become nil after revaluation. So therefore, what should be the cost after revaluation? If there is no depreciation charge, then cost should be equal to the net book value, which means after revaluation, the cost remains at 1500 rupees. There was no depreciation charged. Now only thing remains is to cross verify that the revaluation gain is 900 rupees. If you see, depreciation has been added back. Adding back depreciation is also a gain because no longer it is debited to profit and loss account. So that is a gain to the extent of 400 rupees. And if you compare the cost before revaluation and after revaluation, there is an increase of 500 rupees. There is an increase in value of asset to the extent of 500 rupees represented by increase in cost, and there is a gain also represented by elimination of depreciation to the extent of 400. So adding up the revaluation gain column, our answer matches that revaluation gain is 900 rupees. These were the concepts relating to revaluation of property, plant and equipment. In case you have doubts in any of these matters, you can call on any of these two numbers to get them resolved. And if you have found this video useful, please like and share our video as well as subscribe to our channel. Thank you.